Today I'm sitting down with the CEO of Century 21 in both Spain and Portugal, my good friend Ricardo Sousa. It's not a stretch to say that I'm kind of living in Spain because of Ricardo Sousa. We met back in the United States in 2017. He invited my business partner Nick and I to come speak in Lisbon, and I was just blown away by the lifestyle and the warmth of the people and the real estate agents over here. So when I came for just like a 1 year stint to familiarize my family with the Spanish culture in 2022, part of the reason that I decided to stay was to have the ability to work with Ricardo and his agents and really just be part of this special culture here. So I'm excited for this conversation. All right, so I am sitting here right now in Portugal with the man who is partially responsible for me living in Spain with my family and settling this new life here. Ricardo Sousa, the CEO of Century 21 in Spain and Portugal. Thanks
Thank
for
you so
sitting
much.
down. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
what a place we have to record here.
You like it?
Yeah, I love it. I was talking to Colin. Colin and I were on the committee that kind of came up with this whole rebrand, and we talked about this when I was talking with him earlier. And we did that rebrand probably right about the time that you and I were meeting in about 2017, that came up with the C21 and the new look. I said this to Colin. You take it to a whole nother level though.
Here in Portugal and Spain, right?
Absolutely.
Really with
Yes.
this new branding.
Yeah. No, this is no, you took this new branding where it needs to be. So I want to talk to you today about Spain and Portugal, right? And you are CEO of Century 21 in both countries. So I'm assuming you can't take a position in terms of which one is better, which one's better in food, wine, or real estate. But I'd love to understand the differences. So I own, as you know, a large Century 21 in the United States, and I am very interested in helping Americans, English-speaking North Americans, so predominantly United States and Canada, who are interested in moving or buying property in Spain and Portugal, get settled with the right agents in the regions that they want to be. So it's always dangerous to stereotype, but if in your mind you had to assign this type of people with these type of interests like to be in Spain, these type of interests like to be in Portugal, do you see a difference between those consumers?
No, I would say that Portugal and Spain offer similar solutions, similar opportunities. Spain, the biggest advantage of Spain is the size of the territory, and with more options in terms of coast investment properties, or mountain, or inland. And Portugal, being a smaller country in terms of geographical area, we have less. Not opportunities, but less options. Of course, we have the Algarve, we have the north coast, we have the south coast, the Comporta, south of Lisbon, and the north. We have inland, but it's all more niche, more. The advantage of Portugal is it will be more unique, more authentic, and Spain, it's easier for you to get lost because you have so many options. Some parts of Spain have lost their authenticity. It will be more, you can find that anywhere. But the south of Spain, in both Spain, Portugal, then in Spain you have different countries. I would say you have like Andalusia. It's a completely different region that you'll find in Catalonia. What would be the Costa Brava and Costa Dorada, the south and north coast of Barcelona. Then you have the Levant area. It's a magnificent coast area. You have Valencia, Alicante, Murcia, beautiful region with golf courses. And then you have the highlands. You have two different set of islands, the Balearic Islands and the Canarian Islands, this in Spain. And they're completely opposite to each other in terms of nature, what you see there, the culture, the people. So Spain will be more diverse. You have more options. What is but what you find in Spain, you'll have in Portugal as well. So I would say, probably for you, what would be the main difference in your eyes, in your perspective? For me, I see it. They are both my childs. No, I love them both. They are very similar. But for you, what are the main difference that you see in Portugal and Spain?
Well, it's fascinating. I haven't been here as long as you. I've been here living, on the ground in Sevilla for 2.5 years.
And Sevilla is a very specific city.
Very, very specific city, right? I love it because of how strong it is. I love it because
And it's authentic.
it's
Sevilla.
very authentic. And, I still, because my Spanish is not where it needs to be, I still don't know it for sure. I always have this joke going on in the back of my head that I'm going to learn Spanish, and all these conversations that look so interesting to me, or maybe they don't turn out to be what I thought they were, and then I'd be disappointed. Although I don't think that'll be the case. But the difference is, I would say I perceive as many differences amongst Andalusia versus other regions in Spain as I do, Spain versus Portugal, so to speak. But that could just be because I'm still getting to know the area. I would say, since I've lived in Spain, all my friends like to talk to me about wanting to buy a home in Portugal, which I find is interesting. Also as an American, people, traveling, people tell me, well, I love Canadians, So I don't know if it's just sort of, and then they're trying to antagonize me because I live so close, but I sense a lot of demand for people wanting to be
Here in Portugal.
Here in Portugal.
But I would say the main thing for who is looking to buy Portugal, Spain, you don't think of Spain as one country. So you need to understand that Spain has very different cultures and landscapes and opportunities. Even within Andalusia, it's completely different. What we call the Costa del Sol, the Malaga province, when you compare to Sevilla and the Sevilla province, it's completely different. The culture is different. The type of properties are different. The opportunities will be different, and of course, how you buy a house will be different, because in Spain. In Portugal, you have the guarantee from north to south in the islands. The process is the same. When you work with the agent, is the same. But when you go to Spain, especially if you work with local agents, it will be chaotic, because they don't have regulation. If from city to city, everything will change. So it's really stressful if you don't have like an international brand working with you that has the process standardized. And if you go to Madrid, it's different. If you go to País Basco, it's different. Even in terms of language, they have different dialects. So in Catalonia, you have the Catalan. In Basque, you have the Basques. So that makes Spain very specific. You have to choose your region. You don't choose Spain. You choose a region in Spain. In Portugal, you can choose different landscape, different. Oh, I want coast. I want inland, or I want the river, or I want the islands. But you will have the same sense of belonging to one country, one way of living.
It feels like speaking English, not knowing Portuguese is a lot in Portugal is a lot less detrimental than not knowing Spanish in Spain.
Yes, definitely. The Portuguese will be more welcome in that sense. So they'll make that extra mile to understand you, to make you feel at home. To understand you and try to speak English with you. The Spaniards will be a little bit harder.
So it's been told to me that comes down to one reason. Can you think? And I'm interested to know if you say that.
Which one?
The reason why the Portuguese are so much more likely to speak English.
Well, first of all, we subtitle everything on our TV, so we are very used to listen to English. And movies and whatever. And the Spaniards, they translate everything. So everything is translated. So they don't have the sound.
That's exactly what people said, is that it comes down to the TV and the movies, that if you were growing up Portuguese, you're used to hearing.
Yeah, if you go to the cinema, if you turn up the television, everything is in English. So it's quite easy for us.
Yes, and this is the exact reason that my family has not picked up Spanish as fast as we should, because we listen to TV in the evening because everybody's tired, we listen to English, and we always think tomorrow we'll turn it on to Spanish. So if anybody's watching and they want to know how do we get the kids to pick it up, I think it is first of all, the younger, it's easier. We moved here. My son was 11. My daughter was 13. And my son picked it up faster because they say it's up to 12 is the last year that it's super easy as a kid to do that. And my daughter tends to be a little more focused on studying and more enthusiastic for studying, but still, my son just picked it up faster than my daughter did.
Oh, it's easy with Netflix. You can choose
You can just go ahead. I'll have you sit down and talk to them about that. Yeah. Let's talk about licensing. So in Portugal, does an agent have to be licensed?
In Portugal, the broker needs to have a license, and the agents need to work under a broker, but they don't need to have a license today. But there's a regulation for agents here in Portugal. When we moved to Spain, in Catalonia, the agents need to be registered, not a license.
Okay.
And Madrid is not necessary, and Andalusia. So they are in the process of starting to regulate the market, but today it's not regulated. That's why us at Century 21, what we have created our own system in terms of mandatory training, code of ethics that they need to fulfill, the rules or the standards for them to be and continue to be part of the brand. It's like we try to regulate our own market. Today in Portugal, we have more than 5,000 sales agents across the country with more than 200 offices. In Spain, we are now operating in Barcelona, the most regulated market, Madrid, Costa del Sol, Levante, and Canarian Islands, and the Basque Country. And we have close to 2,000 agents in those countries.
So it almost sounds like you're setting up what we have in the United States through the National Association of Realtors, the local Association of Realtors, where you have this code of ethics that if you're part of NAR, you're obligated to support. That doesn't exist in Spain and Portugal, but to be part of Century 21, it does exist. So you're almost taking more of an unregulated market and you're creating regulations
within our community of agents. And we feel that is really important, not only to have the codes and the rules, but the training process, the culture that we want to have in place, and to be very close to our agents. So all our trainees are in person in a classroom, so you can interact with the agents, work more on the behavior side of it, not just the technical side of the transaction, with specific training, for instance, for agents that work with international clients, so they can understand what you were commenting before on off, that the different perspectives, what is safe for you is different what is safe for us here in Portugal when buying a property or selling a property. So we are training those agents to really be ready to understand those differences and to be more inclusive in terms of working international clients.
Yeah. So I bought in Conil de la Frontera in Cadiz province, where there is not a Century 21, unfortunately. So I had looked in Sevilla where there's not a Century 21 yet. And I struggled. I looked for a year and I couldn't find that agent that I trusted. And what would happen is I'd like a house, I'd get close to it, but then some issues would arise that they felt so foreign to me, and because I didn't have someone I trusted, I couldn't push forward on it, and everything worked out fine.
But I would say what I would like to share with you and people that are watching is that in Spain we are missing the part of the agent, and that's what we are working on, to build those agents. Because buying and owning a property in Spain is very easy and safe. The main issue is the market is very fragmented. The majority of the transactions is between individual owner. Of course, if you go and buy a new construction, it's different. So what we are missing is that regulated piece, or that agent that really has the standards to go with you from A to Z of that transaction. To have that being partnered with a good mortgage broker, with a good lawyer, so that it's a seamless process to find your home, make an offer, and go to and sign the final deed.
Yep.
Here in Portugal, it will be more similar to what you find in the US. So
Yeah.
you have the structure agent piece, you have the mortgage broker's piece, you have the title. So everything will be more easier. What I think people will find different. So you can buy and sell a house with no kind of. We just have one mandatory certification, that is energy certification. So you know the level of efficiency of your house. No other inspections are required.
That's interesting, because in the United States, we're getting to the energy efficiency thing, but in most markets, every part of the house is inspected except for the energy. I was just talking to a good friend of mine who does marketing for a company that is trying to change that. But it's fascinating. I was in Heather Elias, if you're watching, we just had this conversation that in Spain and Portugal, that's like the one part
That we
piece
have.
of the inspection they have, then everything else is very different. But yeah, what I aim to build with my project, This Iberian Life, is be that initial point of contact for someone to connect them, whether they want to be in Spain or Portugal, connect them with, first of all, figure out what part of Spain or Portugal that they'd like to be in. Because I think a lot of, in talking to agents from around Spain and Portugal, I think they want to know someone like myself that has a lot of contacts in the United States, but they view, through experience, they view referrals sometimes from the United States as not always being super strong, because they meet someone who maybe they've thought in the past it would be nice to buy in Spain or Portugal, but they're not educated on the area, so they want to see a couple houses and then they never hear from them again. Whereas I would want to be that point of contact, connect them with people that will get them through the learning process, understand what part makes the most sense, and then once they understand where they want to be, once they've talked to a mortgage lender, because the mortgage process is different than in the United States, but in many ways it's more appealing. I mean, my interest rate last May was 2 7/8. The United States was over 7%. Mine on a fixed rate, 2 7/8. So it's a big difference. On top of that, the carrying costs compared to the United States are almost free. You know, I spend less money on property taxes for an entire year than I do
In a month.
on a month, right? I pay less money for insurance for the entire year than I do for like maybe a quarter in the United States. So I think part of the reason people are so relaxed in this part of the world is that the carrying costs are not nearly as high. The upfront taxes are higher, but when you factor in the break even is only, I ran it, I think in many cases it's only about 5 years. So once you've been in the house, you've covered from those upfront costs, and then you have the rest of your life to relax and not be stressed out about a super high mortgage payment. So,
and I think that I really love about your project is when people, I don't know the country, I don't know Portugal, I don't know Spain. I spoke with a friend, I have an idea of Lisbon or Algarve or Sevilla or whatever, but there's so much to discover. And I think that is very interesting is the distance here in Europe are completely different from the distance in the US. So you can land in Lisbon and just 1 hour drive, you are so many different options to find. Or if you land in Madrid, just 1 hour drive, there are so many options, or in Sevilla. And now we have so many direct flights that if you really want to make a good investment and have a good quality lifestyle, you have so many options. Of course, Lisbon or Madrid, Barcelona will be the most expensive areas in terms of real estate, but you could have luxury at a very low cost or entering point in terms of if you really look into more the inland or even in the north in Oporto. So many options. And the advantage speaking with you is that we can really help these clients to better identify what is best for them and what are their interests, what are they looking for. It's far, no, it's just less than 1 hour drive.
So we've talked about the similarities in Portugal, but looking at the two biggest cities, right? Lisbon's the biggest and Porto is the second. What differences do you see between that? Is there a personality type that would be attracted to Porto versus Lisbon or vice versa?
Well, the north of Portugal and Porto has been very popular for US clients for quite some time now, especially for the Douro River, the Douro wines, the Oporto wine. So people that are looking more into that gastronomy and wines, and they'll really love the north of Portugal and Douro. Douro will be more gray. So here in the south in Lisbon, you have the light is amazing. What you have here, you will not find in Oporto, because you have the river, you have the ocean, and is the city of the seven hills. So it's quite different. And so here will be more of cosmopolitan client that really wants some kind of vibe that is different. Even though Porto is evolving in a new direction, but I would say wine lovers will go to the north of Portugal for definitely, and the foodies will go to the north.
And how about the beaches? So if you compare the Algarve with, you define them the beaches to the north or the south of Lisbon.
Well, the south. So what is the Algarve? Uh, you'll find the best balance between a bigger season, so better weather all year round, and the water will be a little bit hotter. But it's the white sand, long beaches, and you have the smaller calas, as we call it. And from the south of Lisbon, you have the most protected areas in terms of beaches. So you have Comporta, that's an amazing, very special place. Right, just a 15-minute drive from out of the city, you have Costa da Caparica. That it's crazy what you have just beside the big city. That is Costa. So those would be more surfers. It will be a more aggressive sea. But in terms of the beauty, the natural beauty is just amazing. Then you have north of Lisbon, there'll be Cascais, Ericeira, Nazaré. Also, big destination for surfers. You have the big waves there. The biggest wave surfed will be Nazaré. So, but it's more aggressive ocean, colder. But if you are looking just to relax in the sand, Algarve will be the best option.
Let's talk about the information sharing, both in Spain and Portugal. Like neither country, like most of the world, have an MLS. Are there differences in terms of how agents work with one another, both within brokerages and then across brokerages?
Well, we do not have an MLS or a mandatory system, but it's common in the market to cooperate. So if you are working with a seller agent, you'll cooperate with any buyer agent. So, and they will determine the conditions. We only charge the seller, here in Portugal and Spain. So that would be the common. I have a contract with the seller, and anyone that comes in with a buyer, they will cooperate to sell those property, and the seller will be the only one to pay the commission. That will be the standard. How do we find the properties? Well, we have like our Zillow, that would be Idealista, Fotocasa in Spain, or Imo Virtual, where all the properties are listed, and basically the agents will find the properties there. Or we have market intelligence tools that could be Casafari, Alfredo. It's like a market intelligence that we have all the offer combined, and we know who has the house listed. One issue that we have in Portugal and Spain is that we do have a lot of agents that do open listings. So you'll find the same property listed in different agencies. And in those cases, normally the agent that has the buyer will go directly to the seller and do the transaction directly. In Spain, we do have MLSs, even though they don't work that well yet.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Is it a regionalized MLS system?
Yes.
Okay.
They have a national one, and then they have regional ones.
Interesting. Yeah, because I was mostly familiar with Idealista when I looked at my properties. And I remember at first, I was like, I'd see a property I'd really like, and then maybe further down the page, I'd be like, oh, this property looks good too. and I felt like I'd seen it before, and it's because it was the same listing. You know, it was the same listing on Idealista more than
But
once.
now
So
what we have now with our technology, our agent is working with a buyer, and it's a U.S. client, so it's qualifying what are your interests, what are your needs, well, whatever, and it will automatically do a buyer's match with all the properties in the market within Century 21 and outside of Century 21 for sale by owners and with other agencies. So automatically in this system, you'll have like a list of properties that are right or potentially a match for that buyer. So it's not an MLS I see, but it will search all the markets, everything that is listed either by for sale by owner or any other agency in the market. It will list all those properties, and better than that, you'll help our agent to compare. Imagine if the house is listed 5 times with different price tags. So you'll have that information. You'll have the history of those listed properties. So listed in broker A at this price, and it has the changes in price. So it's very useful for the client
yeah.
to work with an agent with this kind of tool, because it will help them to clean up the market.
Yeah. What are the biggest changes you've seen in real estate since, say over the last decade, and where do you see real estate going in both Spain and Portugal over the next decade?
Well, we started Portugal in 2005. We started Spain at the end of 2010. What we have seen is that Portugal has consolidated itself as an international destination. The US now is one of our major clients, and other regions are looking into it. We have done a good job in promoting the country and the balancing between the locals and the international clients, so everyone feels really integrated here. The politicians in Portugal have been very they have managed very well how to attract international investment, how to attract talent and retain talent, people to come to work, not just to retire. And they have done also a good job not to just promote Portugal, but promote the different regions of Portugal, from the Algarve, Alentejo. We have the Douro area, so different regions that have been promoted. And what we have seen, we have consolidated different regions. The main issue that we have is that we are not building as fast as we need. And I think we have globally an inventory issue, US and Portugal and Spain. At Spain, we have different challenge. For instance, Barcelona, they have made some political decisions that have not in the best interest of the city, under our opinion, and because don't want more international investors, so no more touristic apartments and so forth. But in both countries, in terms of the real estate brokerage, Portugal has evolved to a more professional and transparent market, and Spain has been more and more fragmented. So that's why a project like Century 21 and other international brands are so needed right now in the country, so we can standardize the process on buying and selling a house.
When you see a process that feels disjointed, it's exciting to think of the opportunities to be able to help consumers find a more orderly path. When we moved here to find a better pace of life, a better work-life balance. But I rapidly understood that comes at, I don't know if I'd call it a cost, but my expectations on service had to evolve as well. Like, for example, we landed in Sevilla on a Thursday, and I thought, all right, we'll acclimate to the time on Friday, we'll buy a car on Saturday, and then we'll go to the beach for 3 weeks on Saturday night. And we even had an Airbnb reserved. So we go to the car dealership Saturday morning. I had been online. I'd picked out the cars I wanted to test drive.
It doesn't work.
And it doesn't work that way. And the guy says, first of all, we went there was only one salesperson on duty, right? And there was a line of 3 people. So then I went to my second choice car dealership rather than just waiting all day. And then that's when I learned you can't, not only can you not buy a car on a Saturday in Spain, at least in Andalusia, you can't test drive a car on Saturday. And so all we could do is kind of pick out the cars we wanted to test drive on Monday. And he said,
And wait.
well, how fast, when do you want the car by? And I said, well, I wanted it today. So if I come back Monday, I want it Mondays. Oh, that's not possible, you know? And he says, it's about a week, you know? And I said, he was Jesus. And I said, come on, Jesus. Like I have an Airbnb, I'm paying for it. So we were able to have the fastest car transaction in Spanish history. And I think I drove the car on Thursday. So insurance and everything.
Portugal would be the same.
But it's very different. So how does this relate to real estate? What I would say is to people, Americans, Canadians that are looking to buy in Spain or Portugal is the same, the lower stress lifestyle you have to take into account. The people you're going to be working with have lower stress as well. So there's probably not open houses on Saturday or Sunday, which means you're going to be looking at houses, Monday through Friday.
In Portugal, you can do that. In Portugal, it's much easier to do that. So you can visit a house. We'll see open house on a Sunday, on a Saturday. Spain, that would be a bigger challenge.
I found Saturday morning, maybe, if they think you're really, really interested. And the fallback is always, the seller's not interested. Well, the seller says no showings on the weekend. But now, being here for 2.5 years, that feels like, from a real estate agent's perspective, like a heavenly process. But it has to be that mindset reset. So someone comes through my service, I advise them. They say, I'm really frustrated. I'm not seeing homes on the weekend. I can talk to people like you, understand, is that the norm in this city or not? Someone says, I'm frustrated. This doesn't feel right. I can help them evaluate. If that didn't feel, if that's just not how things are done, or if it is a problem. And so I can act as that like separate advisor for them, irrespective of what region of Spain or Portugal they want to be in. So
for you to have an idea, when we started Spain, because Portugal for us was normal, so in Spain we had to put that in the franchise agreement, and the agreement that they would be open on the weekend, and there will be showings on the weekend, not to impose, but really to set up that standard and the service culture that we want to implement in the country. Because in Portugal is something that is natural. In Spain is something that we are starting to push. And right now all our office and all our agents are doing those showings on the weekends. But you touch a very good point, because that service culture. So basically more relaxed, take your time.
Yeah. Well, the key is also, and I'm going to be talking about this on Wednesday with your agents at the conference, but one of the slides I talk about is the need for updates, right? If you're not, consumers want to know what's going on. Even if nothing has happened, the consumer wants to know. That's the most important update to give. Whereas a lot of times in my everyday life in Spain, if there's no update to give, then nothing comes over my way. And I'm always left thinking, was this person not working, or is nothing evolving? And just about the time I've given up on the process, I get an email and all of a sudden it's done. All right, you can come pick this up. Or I just get a random buzz, and then DHL is delivering my package that I thought had been lost. So, well, thank you so much for spending this time with me. Thank you for introducing me to your great agents, and I look forward in kind to introducing them to the people that come through my service, this Iberian life. So thanks, Ricardo.
Thank you, Eddie. My pleasure.
Take care. Good?
Nice.
Perfect.